The XLR had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They were apex predators, a species born for war. Their sharp, insect-like bodies were covered in natural armor. Their ships moved like shadows, fast and deadly. They never lost battles. They never feared anyone. To them, the universe was a hunting ground, and every other species was prey. A new hunt begins. The mighty XLR warship Doomfang floated in deep space, its hull shining under the light of a dying sun. Inside, Supreme Warlord Vakor stood tall, watching his warriors feast. They had conquered another planet. Another species had fallen. Vakor's soldiers laughed and roared as they celebrated. Their enemies had begged for mercy. There was none. The weak existed only to serve, to be hunted, or to be destroyed. A smaller auxiliary officer approached, his claws clicking against the metal floor. "Warlord, we received a distress call from our outer fleets." Vakor didn't turn. Another rebellion. "No, Supreme One." The officer hesitated. The fleet was destroyed. Silence fell over the hall. The warriors stopped eating. Vakor slowly turned. Destroyed? By who? The officer's mandibles twitched in fear. Humans. The room erupted in laughter. Humans, those weak, primitive creatures. The species that had been erased from history. It was impossible. A frightening discovery. But the officer wasn't joking. A damaged XLR warship limped into the docking bay. Its hull was torn open, its weapons melted. Only one survivor remained. They dragged him to the Supreme Warlord. His body was covered in burns, his armor broken. His eyes, once filled with pride, were filled with something that XLR had never seen before. Fear. Vakor stepped forward. His voice was cold. "What did this to you?" The soldier trembled. They are not weak. They are not dead. They are hunting us." The warlord's claws tightened. "Explain." The soldier gasped. "The humans. They don't fight like before. They strike from the shadows. They have weapons that burn through our ships. They never speak. They never show mercy." His body shook violently. "They are ghosts, and they are coming for us." For the first time in history, the XLR had no answer. And far away, in the darkness of space, human warships moved unseen, preparing their next strike. The hunters were about to become the hunted. The XLR had spent centuries hunting others. But now, something was hunting them. Across the galaxy, their warships began to disappear. Fleets went silent. Colonies stopped responding. The XLR Empire, once unchallenged, now felt a presence in the shadows. And the worst part, they never saw it coming. A mysterious enemy. On the bridge of the Doomfang, Supreme Warlord Vakor sat in silence. His mind replayed the terrified words of the injured soldier. "They are ghosts. They are coming for us." It made no sense. The humans should be dead. Their homeworld, Earth, was burned long ago. Their colonies were destroyed. So how were they fighting back? A deep growl left Vakor's throat. He turned to his second-in-command, General Korath. "We will not be hunted. We are the XLR." His eyes glowed with cold fury. "We will find them and end this." But even as he spoke, another fleet went dark. A deadly trap. Deep in the Korak Nebula, a XLR war fleet of 20 warships moved carefully. Their mission: find the humans and exterminate them. They scanned the empty darkness. Nothing. Then, the first ship exploded. A bright flash. A burning wreck. Before anyone could react, a second ship was cut in half by a beam of energy. Then a third. Then a fourth. Panic spread among the XLR commanders. Where is the enemy? No one answered. Because there was no enemy in sight. The humans were invisible. The Ghost Fleet. On board the human warship Retribution, Captain Elias Kane watched the chaos unfold. His crew stayed silent. No celebration. No cheers. Only the cold, calculated efficiency of revenge. Confirmed destruction of targets, Kane said. 17 enemy ships remaining. They are blind. Kane's lips curled into a small smirk. The humans had spent years in hiding, watching, learning, building weapons that HFY had never seen before. Now, they had returned, and they were hunting their hunters. A galaxy in fear. The few HFY ships that survived limped back to their homeworlds. They brought only one message: the humans are back. But they were not here to beg for survival. They were here for war. And this time, the HFY had nowhere to run. The HFY were used to victory. They crushed worlds. They wiped out species. No one had ever dared to fight back. Until now. The humans had returned, and they were not fighting for survival. They were fighting for vengeance. Panic in the Empire. On that HFY homeworld, Vorik Prime, Supreme Warlord Vakor stood in the Great War Chamber. Holograms of his remaining generals surrounded him. All of them had the same message. The humans were winning. Fleet after fleet was destroyed. Entire colonies had gone silent. The HFY Empire was collapsing. Vakor slammed his claws onto the table, his voice a deep growl. How? General Korath hesitated. They fight differently. Their ships, they do not engage in direct combat. They strike from the dark and vanish. Then find them. Vakor roared. Hunt them down. Korath's mandibles twitched in fear. We have tried. We cannot see them. The word sent a chill through the room. The HFY, the greatest predators of the galaxy, were blind. The phantom attackers, somewhere in deep space, aboard the human warship Retribution, Captain Elias Kane sat in the command chair. His fleet had just eliminated another HFY supply convoy. His ships were not massive battleships. They were stealth destroyers, equipped with technology that HFY could not detect. For years, humanity had been hiding, studying, preparing. Now, they struck and disappeared like ghosts. One of his officers turned. Target destroyed. No survivors. Kane nodded. The HFY would never see them coming. A desperate plan. Back on Vorik Prime, Vakor knew they were running out of time. Every day, more HFY ships vanished. Every day, more HFY worlds fell. For the first time in history, they were losing. Vakor bared his fangs. If the humans would not fight in the open, then he would force them to. A new plan formed in his mind. A trap. He would make them come to him. And when they did, he would make sure they never left. The HFY had never known fear. But now, their once powerful fleets hid in the shadows, afraid to move. Every time they sent warships into the void, they never returned. The humans were hunting them, and the HFY had no way to fight back. But Supreme Warlord Vakor had a plan. If the humans refused to fight in the open, he would force them to. A trap for the ghosts. On the bridge of the Doomfang, General Korath stood beside his warlord. Before them, holograms displayed the perfect bait. A HFY colony world, Zalvek, one of their last remaining strongholds. And they had left it undefended. At least, that's what the humans would think. Korath's mandibles twitched. You believe they will take the bait. Vakor's eyes gleamed with cold fury. They are human. They fight from the dark, but they have weakness. They protect their own. If they see a chance to strike a final blow, they will take it. He would make them come. And when they arrived, the largest hidden fleet in HFY history would be waiting. The humans take the bait. Aboard the human warship Retribution, Captain Elias Kane studied the latest intelligence reports. His fleet had been tracking HFY movements for weeks. And now, an opportunity had appeared. The colony of Zalvek, a critical supply world. Undefended. Kane frowned. It was too easy. The HFY had been losing for weeks. Why would they leave a key planet exposed? His second in command, Commander Vera Holt, crossed her arms. It's a trap. Kane smirked. Of course it's a trap. The XLR were predators. Cornered predators. But humans. Humans were something else. We go in, Kane said. But we do it our way. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. The trap is sprung. The human fleet moved in. As soon as they entered the planet's orbit, the XLR fleet emerged. Hundreds of warships decloaked. Vakor stood on the bridge of the Doomfang, watching the humans with cold triumph. Nowhere to run, he growled. The net had closed. The last of the humans would be exterminated. But then, something went wrong. The human ships didn't panic. They didn't try to flee. Instead, Kane's voice came through on an open channel. You think we didn't see this coming? Vakor's eyes widened. From the darkness behind the XLR fleet, more human ships appeared. They had walked into their own trap. And now, there was no escape. The XLR had trapped themselves. Their massive fleet, hidden around Zalvek, was now surrounded. They had expected frightened prey. Instead, they found predators just as ruthless as them. For the first time, the XLR were the ones being hunted. Shock on the Doomfang. Supreme Warlord Vakor stood frozen on the bridge of his warship. This was impossible. The humans should have been caught. Destroyed. But instead their ships appeared from the void like phantoms. They were everywhere. And the XLR fleet was boxed in. Korath's voice was unsteady. Warlord, our rear defenses are breached. Human warships are behind us. Vakor's claws tightened. How? The answer came from the human warship Retribution. A calm voice echoed through the comms. You thought we were running. We were leading you into the dark. Captain Elias Kane's voice was filled with quiet confidence. Now it's our turn. The first strike. Before the XLR could react, human weapons fired. From the shadows, railguns shredded through the armor of XLR warships. Stealth bombers darted between enemy ships, dropping explosives that ripped entire cruisers apart. Vakor watched in horror as ship after ship exploded. This wasn't war. It was annihilation. The XLR fleet was being destroyed faster than they could even return fire. They had never fought an enemy like this. A desperate escape. Korath turned, panic in his voice. We must retreat. We must break through. Vakor hated the idea of running, but there was no choice. If they stayed, they would die. His claws dug into the armrest of his command chair. Signal all ships. Break formation. Get out of here. Now. But before they could move, a massive human battleship decloaked right in front of them. It was the Vengeance. A ship twice the size of anything that XLR had ever seen. Vakor felt true fear for the first time in his life. Captain Kane's voice came through again. You wanted a fight, Warlord. Now you've got one. The XLR had never known defeat. Now, they were drowning in it. Their once invincible fleet was falling apart. Human warships struck from the darkness, vanishing before the XLR could retaliate. The battlefield was filled with fire, wreckage, and dying screams. For the first time in their history, the XLR were running. A desperate fight. On the Doomfang, Supreme Warlord Vakor's claws trembled with rage. This was supposed to be their victory. Instead, the humans had turned their own trap against them. Korath shouted over the alarms. Warlord, our forces are in full retreat. We must escape. Vakor bared his fangs. Retreat. He would rather die. But the battlefield told him the truth. If he stayed, death was certain. Even now, the massive human warship Vengeance was closing in. Its weapons glowed with the promise of destruction. Kane's voice echoed across the comms. Running so soon, Warlord. Vakor growled, his pride burning. This is not over, human. It is for you, Kane replied coldly. And then, the Vengeance opened fire. The fall of the Doomfang. The first shot from the Vengeance shattered a XLR battleship. The second shot tore through the Doomfang shields. The third shot punched straight into its engines. Explosions ripped through the Celleri flagship. Vakor was thrown from his command seat, the bridge filling with flames and smoke. Korath coughed, his voice weak. We must abandon ship." Vakor gritted his teeth. This was not how he was supposed to die. This was not how the Celleri were supposed to fall. But as the Doomfang began to break apart around him, he had no choice. The end of the war. Escape pods launched from the burning wreckage. Vakor watched, helpless, as his once great fleet was reduced to ruin. The Celleri, the galaxy's most feared predators, had been hunted to the brink of extinction. And yet, Vakor's rage still burned. As his escape pod drifted into the void, he made a vow. This was not over. The Celleri would return. But deep down, for the first time in his life, he wasn't sure if they could. The battle was over. The Celleri fleet was shattered. Wreckage floated in the cold void, once proud warships now twisted metal and burning debris. The unstoppable hunters of the galaxy had been defeated. By humans. The species they once saw as weak prey had turned into their worst nightmare. The message to the galaxy. Aboard the human warship Vengeance, Captain Elias Kane stood before a console. The battle had been won. But this war was far from over. He activated the Galactic Communication Network. The entire universe would hear this. Kane's voice was calm but firm. To all who watch, hear this well. The Celleri called themselves the apex predators. They thought they ruled the stars. They thought humanity was nothing. Kane's eyes narrowed. Look at them now. The broadcast showed the burning remains of the Celleri fleet. The galaxy watched in shock. For centuries, the Celleri had spread fear and destruction. Now, they were ruined, and humanity had done it. The future of the Celleri. Vakor's escape pod drifted through space. His empire was broken. His pride was shattered. But his rage remained. He would rebuild. He would return. But deep down, fear crept into his mind. He had underestimated humanity once. Could the Celleri ever recover from this? Or worse, was their reign over forever? The final warning. Back on the Vengeance, Kane turned off the broadcast. He looked at his crew. "They'll come back," one officer muttered. Kane nodded. "Maybe." He turned to the window, watching the wreckage of the Celleri fleet. "But next time, we won't just break them. We'll erase them." The war wasn't over, but the message was clear. The true apex predators had arrived.